Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Sales Remastered. This is video 3 of how to cold call video series. Yesterday, obviously, was video 1 and 2. And today, being Thursday, March 1st, 2018. Oh my God, we already passed 2 months in this year. Feels like just yesterday we're celebrating Thanksgiving. Anyway, time flies. And so without further ado, I want to be sure that you benefit the absolute most from this series. And so in the first, I broke it down to the idea of creating a process, right? And what pillars or what pieces are required inside of this process of outbound sales origination. And outbound sales origination is so vague, but right now is what I'm actually go a little bit further into. So go check out video 1 and 2. Definitely video 3 is going to be important because it's going to tell you about the scripting, like what to say, how to say it, and who to say it to. And if you miss any of the videos, this being video number 3 of how to cold call, if you miss any of the videos, you might miss an important pillar. So I urge you, if I didn't leave the links below this video, go check out the playlist and you're going to see how to cold call. Every video titled how to cold call, be sure you peep that out. This is video 3. So now let's get to it. Video 3, what I want to talk about is lead types. Understanding that when you try to make this connection, and this is an outbound attempt, and you haven't spoken to this lead ever, you individually as a person, this does not mean that that prospect has never spoken to your company. And it is important to understand how familiar that prospect is with your company. So whether you're relying on a conversation log or conversation notes inside the file, and I don't want you to sweat it too much, because at the end of the day, you can find out in the engagement, but it does help to at least know who you're engaging. And so, I'm going to give you 2 examples. One example is if a CSR, customer service representative, was to transfer you that cold call, because those are the hardest to transition, right? Those are the hardest to convert. Are outbound cold calls from a customer service representative transferred to you, because typically what we meet as salesmen is resistance. We meet that dude on the phone who's always in a rush, right? Who's always got 1 minute left, who's like literally in the middle of eating or arguing with his kids in the back seat, and we're expected to have a 45-minute phone conversation with this person. And so this becomes a challenge, of course, and we get mad and we blame the customer service representative. Next thing you know, we're emailing their manager with them and our manager and our manager's managers, and some whatever reason we got maintenance CC to the email and shit, and we're letting everybody know that they transferred us a lead who didn't want to talk to us. Like, take this out of my queue. It's messing up my conversion ratios. And again, as I mentioned in yesterday's video number 2, sometimes our focus can just be in the wrong areas. And so what I want to do is I want to actually analyze it for what it is and where the trouble may be coming from, and it's from that first point of engagement. Regardless of what lead type, regardless of their history, regardless of their experience with your company or none, we understand there are a few things that are always going to be cyclical. They're always going to be common, right? And this is just based on our experience. This is just common sense. Like the experience that we bring to the table is we should already know, because deep down inside we're scared of it, of what the common rejections are. Like, I'm not in the market right now, right? Like, I don't got no time. I just refinance, or I'm in the process of refinancing. Whatever the excuse is, we kind of already know what's going to come up. Now, what you're going to find is that by first realizing what kind of lead type it is, right? Because the person could be an internet inquiry. Like, they could have filled out a lending tree lead a year ago, and your company or you have never contacted them. And so how do you come up, how do you engage that person versus someone who responded to a mailer ad like a year ago, right? And sometimes it could be even more recent. Sometimes it could be within the last month or last week. But this plays a role, because someone who hasn't talked to your company in a year is a different approach versus someone who hasn't talked to your company in a week, right? There's just 2 different reasons. And so why this is important is because each has its own method of engagement, has its own technique to capture their attention. Let me give you an example. So if I came across a lead, right, regardless of the credit, regardless of the wants, regardless of their current situation, and the last time they engaged with me or my company, I'm just gonna say my company, I'm gonna say not even me, right? and it's been a year since there's been any contact made, I'm going to come across that lead and approach them like this. So let's say if I get a transfer from a customer service representative, right? And they say, hey, Daniel, I got Jim here. Jim, go ahead. Or Daniel, go ahead. You know, and of course, let's say the CSR's name's Daniel. I'll be like, hey, Daniel. Or I'm sorry. The CSR's name is, let's say, Dan. I'll say, hey, thanks, Dan. Hey, Jim, I appreciate you holding. Dan's transferring you over to me because I'm licensed just to release out the information that you need. So I'm going to go ahead and send that out to you. I appreciate it. And mind you, Dan should have told you that this is an outbound call, by the way. So before they transfer, and if the CSR isn't telling you if they transfer, before they transfer, if it's outbound or inbound, that's a piece of information you need to know. It'll give you more preparation than you can think, right? Like, because if they tell you like, hey man, I got this on an outbound, you could probably go into it with a little bit of a different tonality, like you're in a rush, right? Because the person who was called on an outbound, especially by a customer service representative, there's a high chance that they didn't expect to talk to a salesman. And so to protect yourself, and maybe if in the event they are, let's say you talk to, you know what I mean, like Winston, the old dude from, the retired guy from West Virginia, right? And he wants to talk, right? So he's cool with Dan transferring you over, and he's, you know what I mean, like he put his book down just to talk to you. Now he's lighting up his pipe and shit. He's ready. He's ready to converse. He's in his chair. Anyway, so where I'm getting at is, because it's more likely that person is not really going to expect the engagement, it's always best to prepare in the event that they don't, right? And if in the event that they do, then you're golden. But if in the event that they don't, you want to be able to invite them with a rhythm that they're going to be okay with, that they're going to accept and not want to fight. You see, imagine this. Imagine if you were trying to get off the phone with someone and then they transferred you to a sales representative, and that sales representative was now trying to take your time. That ever happened to you? If you ever called customer service and they keep transferring you to a different department and shit, and then that different department's all, okay, so how can I help you? And then you feel like you got to explain it all over again. You're like, man, I was just telling that last department. Did I ever feel like that? So that creates frustration. And whenever you, especially us, like us as individuals, on a side note, whenever we're in frustration, we just want to end that frustration. And so our prospects are the same way. If they want to, you know what I mean? If they're frustrated, they're getting frustrated because they didn't want to talk to a salesman, and then the salesman hops on the phone like, hey, how can I help you? Motherfucker, you tell me. How can you help me? What? Like, you called me. And so that's why it's important to understand the engagement. Like, is this an outbound or inbound? And so if it's an outbound, what I would do to Jim, and let's say Jim is just an eager beaver to get off the phone, right? I'm going to accept the phone call like this. Hey, Dan, thanks for transferring. I appreciate it. Hey, Jim, I appreciate you holding. Dan's transferring you over to me because I'm going to be the one who's sending out the information in your email. I'm licensed to release the information, so keep an eye out for it. It's going to go to your Gmail account. Is that right? It's going to be regarding the property, blah, blah, blah. And then Jim might interrupt, say, hey, Dan. What I was trying to tell Dan was that I'm not in the market, and I'm only looking for a 1.15 30-year fix with a $1 fee. If you can't do it, don't talk to me, right? And this is Jim. And then my response would not be, oh, okay, well, that's just not available. What I'm going to do is I'm respond again, as I had shared with you, is I'll agree. I'll say, okay, cool. Let me go and get that out to you. Yeah, no worries. I'm actually going to send that out to you. No, you know what? Dan told me that's exactly what I'm going to send out to you. So I just want to confirm though, because I'm licensed. It's my license number on that form. I just need to make sure it applies. Okay. So the property that you're talking about, this is the one here on Myford, blah, blah, blah. Got it. And when I send the email out, I got to make quick notes right here. I understand that you want the lower rate because it gives you the lower payment, but I do need to make reference. What would the monthly payment savings be? Because this is such a massive amount of savings. I could tell why you want it, but where would the monthly savings go? Would it go back to your bank account? Would it go towards the principal balance? Would it go towards debt on other, the balance on other debt? And Jim might be a douche, right? Jim might just be like, well, what's that matter? Well, what's that matter is because you're asking for an irate fucking rate, right? You're asking for a non-existing rate, right? Like you basically asked for a 4-leaf clover, Jim, and I'm just trying to make that 4-leaf clover appear, Jim. Hey, Jim, you want a unicorn? I'm trying to make the fucking unicorn appear. Give me the fucking info. That's what you say. No, don't say that. But what you do say is you understand, because inside your head, that's probably what you want to tell Jim. But inside your head, you're just like, oh yeah, no worries. The reason why I'm asking is because this is a pretty big request for my manager to consider this type of exception. I need to explain why. Like, why are we getting this exception? Mind you, these responses are all true. Am I right? So you will eventually have to ask for some sort of exception, but it gives you the upper hand. And so what I want to share with you is that Jim is not as craftful as you and I. He's not experienced as you and I. He doesn't understand the verbiage, the language, the dynamics of loan terms like you and I, right? And so Jim believes that the only way to lower his $3,000 mortgage payment is to lower the rate. Jim also thinks that the lower the rate, the lower the payment. And so Jim thinks that if I ask for a 1.15% lower rate, then it's going to save me enough money so I could do other things. Well, those other things that Jim has in mind is what we need to extract. And that's why we need to agree. And so it would sound something like this. Yeah, no worries, Jim. I just need to make a quick note here because I'm going to ask for the pricing exception from my manager before I send it out to you. He's going to ask me, and I just want to help you save some time so I don't have to keep calling you back, is what you plan on using monthly savings for. And so Jim might say, well, I plan to use the monthly savings to pay down my credit card debt that I had to rack up because I had a hole in my roof, or because I needed a new garage, or because my wife made me do the master bedroom or the master bathroom, right? And then you find out that there is $20,000 in debt. But see, Jim never told you about that. Jim never told you about the $50,000 in debt. Jim never told you about the $30,000 judgment that's about to levy his bank and garnish his wages. Jim never told you about the child support that increased. Jim never told you about Susie's loss of overtime, right? But they wouldn't have. Why would they? Why would they? Because they were transferred from a customer service representative they didn't want to talk to, but now because you know what pulls them, now you have a little bit more leverage to keep Jim on the phone, right? And so if Jim says, well, I'm going to go and plan to use the monthly savings to go pay off my other debt. Got it. Let me go and make a quick note on the credit report, besides the mortgage, of course, how much total in credit card debt and auto loans. He's going to say, about 30 grand in credit card debt, and I got about 20 grand in car loans. Got it. Of the credit card debt, how much do you send? This looks good because we need to know if you're sending the minimum or you're sending above and beyond. What do you think they're going to say? They say, well, right now I send the minimum. Got it. Okay, well, here, I have an idea. Let me see if I can get you approved still, even though you're sending the minimum payment, or even though you're not sending a big chunk of monthly payments towards that debt right now, because I believe the only way that you're going to increase the payment you send to the credit cards, and the only way you're going to have a chance of paying off these credit cards and avoid going into a deficit and avoid depleting your assets and avoid depleting your 401k or other liquid reserves that you need to protect. Let me see if I can get an exception for you. I'm going to ask a few basic questions. This is going to let me know if we can deliver this to you. And if I can, I'm going to show you exactly what I can do. If I can't, I'm going to point you in the right direction, because it looks like to me that you're only headed in one direction. And if I let you go right now, you're going to continue in that direction. And that's a dangerous direction. So let me show you how to turn the ship around. Right. And so now they can't fight you with that. But the issue is when you tell them, now let me go and teach you how to turn the ship around, you jump into it. Now the rest of the momentum of your conversation is moving forward to the complete of the application. Does that make sense? So you're not saying, well, let me show you how to turn the ship around. Is it okay if I move forward? Don't ask that. If you're ever asking, is it okay if I do an application? Is it okay if I ask you a couple questions? Is it okay if we do a 1003? Is it okay? Don't ask if it's okay on outbounds. Just let them know. Assume the close. Assume that they're going to agree. Because when you assume that they're going to agree and they're just going to take it, then your tonality changes and it gives the impression that it's on its way regardless, boo-boo. It's about to come to you regardless. It's going to go to this email. And so how do you fight something if it's already on its way? You're just like, all right, well, fuck it, send it, right? That's how you would think. But where we are given a choice, where we can say, no, we don't want to go forward, is when we're given a choice, right? Like, all right, well, is it okay if I ask a few questions? Well, now here's my out. No, it's okay. I don't got any time. Now I can come up with an excuse. And because I gave that excuse, even if you said something savvy or crafty to me, like a good rebuttal, even then, I, as an individual, because I made up that lie or I made up that excuse, oh no, I don't got any time, I have to now defend that choice, right? It's not like I can come back and say, all right, fuck it, let's go, because then that's a sign of weakness, like desperation. And these people are smart. They're smart. You got to understand that engagement. So I hope that this helps. Stick around. Go see video number 4. I'm going to elaborate a little bit more in detail about the psychology of getting through to the prospect on an outbound. It's an important skill to learn. This is a skill that where when you learn, you have to realize how dangerous of a salesman you are. You are one of the rare few salesmen that knows how to originate sales on their own. In other words, you're telling your company and say, hey, boo-boo, I'm going to generate revenue with your company without your company's help. The only thing you got to pay for is my phone line. How strong is that, right? Not to mention, how much more do you get paid off personal generated leads, right? On outbound leads. And so now you don't necessarily even need to use your company's lead base, right? Like you can use social media to create your own lead traffic. How much do you get paid on personal gen? How much do you think your income would increase if you were the one? Be the one. So I'll see you in the next video. If this is your first time watching Sales Remastered, please consider subscribing, hit the thumbs up, comment, like, share. See you in the next video. Bye.